Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Across the Park podcast. It's another week, it's another set of dramas, another load of issues and challenges to deal with for this club that we love to hate at times. But again, we're back this week. We'll be covering everything that's gone on in the last week. We'll also be looking ahead to the Brentford game, briefly back at the Arsenal game. And I'm joined this week by a deputy to Millsy. So Millsy's not here this week, so we've got Colin Flood with us this week. Cheers for joining us, Col.
No problem at all, guys. Pleasure.
Col is home and away with the Blues, a colleague of mine and a good friend as well, and I'm sure he'll be a more than able deputy to Millsy. Before we get started, just want to take the chance, as always, to thank our sponsors. Globe Heating and Gas, first and foremost. We're getting into the winter now. Most of us are looking at that rickety old boiler thinking, how long's that going to last? Give them a shout. The guys over there are outstanding. Also brilliant at bathrooms as well. You can check them out and you'll have seen it in our intro. Thank you to the Pod Cafe, our gracious hosts here. Unbelievable setup. We've had loads of compliments on that. So thanks again to those guys. If you've got a business or you're looking for any broadcasting support or anything around audio, podcast and video, give them a shout. It's Podcafe UK _ on Instagram, or you can drop us a message and we'll send you their way. Without further ado, Col, we're gonna have to get into things. Just gonna briefly touch on the Arsenal game first and foremost. Come into the wider stuff and then move forward, I guess, chronologically into the Brentford one. So, starting with the Arsenal game, we had our instant match reaction, and I don't think normally. After a few days, I kind of calm down and have a think about it and think, well, maybe I was being a little bit harsh at the time. But my opinion, just to kind of give you an insight, was that I just thought we were so passive. We didn't lay a glove on them. There was very little in terms of a game plan, I thought, from the manager. The players didn't really have an idea when they got in the final third. They looked like they panicked consistently. I thought we'd done okay at the back, but I don't think Arsenal really needs to get out of first gear.
No, I completely agree with everything you're saying, guys. And I think that's probably something that's been consistent with all the games. It's the lack of a plan. I think we look very, very vulnerable when we're in possession of the ball. We look seriously, unorganised. We can probably put two passes together, and then it's direct. You know what I mean? It's into the striker off the midfielders, but Arsenal had a game plan Sunday and it worked to a T. Let Everton have the ball and they'll put themselves under pressure, especially at the back. And I think moving forward, that lack of a plan will only build more frustration around the fans. I mean, sitting where I sit, it's predictable. It's for me that level. Professional footy players at that level should at least be able to keep possession of the ball or have some idea about what we're trying to do, but the blanket midfield five just was so ineffective Sunday, and it was so plain to see. We were getting pulled out, traps set all over the pitch, and it looked like men against boys. And the lack of quality there for me, especially the in possession part where we've got the ball, we lacked creativity. But what really disappointed me was the set pieces and corners. Again, it was just the lack of quality, and you can see it in some level of frustration from where I sit in the paddock. You can see across the line when they're pointing where they want it, and it doesn't beat the first man.
Conversely, Arsenal tried that corner 6 or 7 times at the weekend. We didn't react to it once. Sometimes you can get that in the first half because maybe the players have been given the instruction. You stay in the box, you defend the cross when it comes. But surely as a coach or set of coaches, management team, at half time you say, listen, cut that out. Stop the overload from that corner. He ends up scoring from that. Will that be something? I'll rephrase my question. Is that something you were not expecting? I think from a Sean Dyche team.
Well, yeah, look, you've got to give players responsibility on the pitch, haven't you? If they see it and they know it's becoming an issue, you've got to empower them a little bit. For me, he looks like it's this way and this is the way it's got to be. And then for me, you're losing that ability for the players to adapt to the game situations. Them corners, we got torn apart by Arsenal, you know, on the corners, but we did by Doncaster as well.
Yeah,
they
true.
started it. They started pulling us out, and we didn't know whether we were coming out or we were sitting in. For me, it's a worry, it's a concern that, you know, and if that's the only plan we've got for corners, well, we're going to concede more against from corners and set pieces in them areas. But you know, every team are on it now. You can see them. Right, let's play short and pull them out. You know, and they're creating chances from it. You know, but it's the lack of agency and the reaction from the lads that, for me, is more concerning. I don't think that's the players. I think that's the management and the coaching. They're told to sit in. But for me, it's so obvious, so apparent that we're conceding from it, and it's quite amateur.
Frustrating,
you know, it's frustrating. Yeah.
Just again, briefly touching on a few of the changes he made going into the game. Mikalenko's coming at left back. Ashley Young switched to right back. McNeil in for Ghana. Any complaints with those changes? You think they were the right calls?
On paper, you'd say no, wouldn't you? But I think the two fullbacks done well to handle Arsenal's fullback wingers. I thought McNeil faded around 60 minutes, and it was the right time to give him a rest. But I don't know. I mean, we're all great coaches from the sideline, aren't we? You know, but when you're seeing a player struggling to recover, and he will have had to have done a lot of that recovering. For me, he took too long. It reminded me of David Moyes. Wait till the 85th minute and then we'll make a change, or go behind and we'll make a change. I'd just like to see him be more proactive, you know, with his substitutions. But in terms of his personnel, I'll be honest, I think the Ashley Young one, I've got a question mark over it at the moment, mate. I think, look, he's great in the squad player role, but to be dependent on him over the two first choice, let's say last season fullbacks, I'm not sure.
Not only that, it's dependent on him, it seems, to take every single set piece, come rain or shine, despite the fact that he seems to either put it on the keeper or not beat the first man. I haven't seen much so far. Look, there's been the odd delivery, but I've not been much so far, not seen much so far, that explains to me why he takes every single set piece.
I mean, look, I love getting in early to watch warm-ups and I watch the other teams and stuff like that. It's just something I've grown fond to over the years with coaching and stuff. And I watched Dan Juma whip crosses in after cross after cross. He scores. He's one of the only ones who consistently finishes in the finishing drills. And it baffles me, you know, how we don't put him on set pieces, corners. I think from James Garner to Ashley Young to maybe one or two others who've had to go, McNeil is in that. You know, the level or the quality of it and the accuracy of where they're putting it. I think it's a pot luck. I'm dumbfounded a little bit at the quality of it. But is it confidence whipping the ball in and people getting on the end of it? It might be a combination of all those things, but I'm with you. I think Ashley Young at the moment probably picking on him because he's taking the set pieces a lot.
Exactly, but that's my point. Is
the quality isn't the best.
You'd almost see areas where it suits a left-footed player, but then Ashley Young comes jogging over and suddenly he's on it.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, I remember when Dyche first come in, and it was a bit of a breath of fresh air that the strategy from set plays generally was, let's hang the ball up so we've got a chance to get on the end of it. That just seems to have disappeared. Now, obviously, I might seem I'm contradicting myself because I said that there's far too many crosses that are claimed by the keeper. But if you hang it up so far to the back post, keepers are reluctant to come that far. If you remember when he first came in, it was like, let's put it really high to the back post. Give the likes of Tarkowski a chance to get on the end of it, and we get the bits from the second ball. I think that's hard to play against that. And I just don't know where that's gone, and there seems to be very little variety. And as you say, the players seem to be suffering from a lack of confidence, both from deliveries and even when they get on the end of it. Yeah,
so it probably goes back to what they're doing through the week, you know, in training. I mean, I'll pick on the likes of Patterson and like fullbacks, you know what I mean, and the level of quality he's through in from open playing crosses has been poor. Wolves was the perfect example. I think the keeper got applauded for coming and claiming everything. Well, I probably would have catched some of them. They were that eye and that light, you know, the crosses, but again, you know, we're picking on things. I think we're stuck between a system where we want to come out and play and we don't because we're too conservative in the way we do. And then when we get in them areas to deliver, I think we're isolating certain players 1 against 4, and the crosses is just a pot luck. I don't see anything fired across the near post because someone's attacking the near post. I don't see, like you said, back post or cutting things back. it's just pot luck. I've seen Decore against Fulham, that crosses back to him.
Yeah.
He's lucky he was there because he never got his head up and looked. He's just put it through. But I think quality from corners, set pieces, throw-ins is another one. I have been absolutely shocked at like how poor we are with throw-ins, especially in the final third. It's just like throw it and throw it back and guess what I'm going to do with it. There's no real plan to it. Arsenal turns up.
It's big part of the game, isn't it?
Massive. Odegaard took the ball under pressure under 2 players Sunday and they kept possession. But they had a plan to it. We just don't look like we know what our plan is unless it's direct from the back 4 into the striker.
I'll even be critical of that, you know, because I don't think in the first half Beto even got any ball into him. Like, you know, saying like, oh yeah, the plan is go direct, go long. Don't even think that happens. Like, he was standing there at times and Dyche was calling to him to run the channel. But Beto was going, just put the ball up to me. Put the ball up to me, I'll pin this player. And we've seen him do that at Sheffield United numerous times. We've seen him do it at Doncaster. You put the ball up to him at, you know, chest, feet height, he'll hold the ball up, he'll bring others in, and he'll sometimes turn and run at defenders. But I felt a little bit sorry for him at the weekend because I don't think he got any decent ball into him. The only time he kind of got the ball was kind of off second balls, and it was a little bit scruffy and there was no one around him, and he got made to look a little bit poor and untidy.
Guys, he looked like a busy fool. All he kept doing was closing passes down. You know, and they were quite happy. Everyone was sat in, and the balls you're referring to there, the direct balls, or myself, is they weren't into him. They were into wingers.
They're into space,
into the space channel, winger chase, and you're right, playing into him direct was probably...
I've got no problem with that, by the way, you know. I really haven't. There's a time and a place for it, and I think against an Arsenal team that will look, and as you say, to set traps, I've got no problem with playing direct. But there's got to be a method to it. There's got to be a way of getting those second balls. There's got to be okay, what happens if this happens? Those what ifs that you talk about in coaching and you assume that's happening in the training grounds. I just don't have any belief that that's going on. It seems to be very percentage based and almost like, I know you're saying, you know, this is the way we play or whatever. I almost don't see that. Fullbacks and centre-backs are picking up the ball and they don't know what they're doing before they're getting it. Like, that's generally what you find in a team that's well drilled and patterns. The ball comes in, they already know what they're going to do with it. You're seeing them picking it up, looking around, going back to Pickford, looking around again. It's all signs of a team that just don't look like they've got an idea or
we
an
haven't
identity.
got a plan B either, have we? You know, and I guess that's what it's referring to is that we want to sit in and be solid and then be direct when we're in possession. But you know, you can't get wins by just playing with that philosophy. For me, you know, you're going to have to adapt. You know, and there's going to be teams in the next few weeks we've got to break down. I think we're going to struggle. When I see us in possession, can't see us breaking many teams. We struggled to break Doncaster down. Yeah, we did make a lot of changes, but if you've got a philosophy and a plan in place, you know, you'd like to see it, you know, in those games. But I believe, you know, that the way he sets them up at the minute, it's just to be plan A, is just to be hard to break down, and then we'll run from that.
Well, let's stick on the pitch. Slight change of plans. Stick on the pitch because I guess we'll roll into the Brentford game now and we'll touch on the off-the-field stuff after that. So I guess first and foremost, do you expect, and we spoke about it briefly off air, it's a huge few games coming up for Sean Dyche and we'll touch on Sean Dyche as an individual after we look at the game. But what do you think the mentality is going into this game? Look, Brentford for me is a very tough place to go. I don't think many teams, aside from maybe the top 2 or 3 in this league, go to Brentford and think we expect to get 3 points here. I think most expect it to be a difficult day and they'd maybe be happy coming away with the points. Do you think the mentality, given the position we're in, has to be different?
I think he's got to learn from the Wolves and the Fulham game, definitely. I think a point is enough. You know, we've got to get points on the board. So I think if he's going to push it, you know, and do something that we haven't seen in the last few games, you know, by going to a front, you know, I think he's probably got to, this is the type of game you've got to be solid and play for your set pieces, you know, with that group of players. Must win, absolutely, because of where we are. You know, 1 point from 5 games, you know, just isn't good enough. Conceding the amount of goals we have, we're just getting caught then in between, coming out and wanting to sit in. I think his approach, Satty's just got to be, you know, we've got to be hard to break down, play for set pieces, and, you know, if we do have to go for it, I'd like to see 2 up front. I mean, I've seen it at the very end at Arsenal on Sunday.
But the personnel wasn't what we wanted. I mean, like, I thought, you know, briefly going back to Arsenal, given how toothless we were throughout the game and how fresh Beto looked, I thought it was an ideal chance to throw them both up there.
Absolutely.
And if anything, okay, take Beto off with 5 minutes to go and bring Chimiti on. I almost thought he played his joker by taking Beto off, and it was like, you've got nothing to bring on now. Because Arsenal obviously scored after Beto went off. And I think if he had his way, or if he's had a bit more foresight, he'd have been thinking, well, probably should have kept him on there.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think the shape is up for question, innit? For me at the minute. Them three midfielders have been quite ineffective from day one, but he's persevering with it. I'd love to know why and come out and explain that. But for me, you know, his plan B should be two up front. You know, I think
it was at Burnley.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
understand to a certain extent why it couldn't be early on in the season when we literally only had Morpie and maybe a Danjuma or maybe Tamari Gray, who was obviously out of favour. I understood when we didn't have a target man why we perhaps didn't go for the two up front. But now that we've got Calvert-Lewin, Beto, Chimiti, why would you not use that chance? Particularly, again, given the circumstances. You know, in the Arsenal game, we're 1-0 down. We're facing 5 games with only 1 point. Losing 2-0, losing 3-0 at this stage of the season is irrelevant. You know, the fans would rather have seen him throw the dice.
For me, he just looks like he doesn't trust them as a group. Yeah, I still look at him on the sideline, and the amount of times he talks to his staff, and you think he's going to make a change, and you think he's spotted something, but he looks to me as if, like, again, he doesn't trust the bench. You know, and maybe that's right. You know, but until you give it a go, the training bit I always refer back to, you should be seeing what they're doing on the park, on the pitch, you know, on a match day. And I don't see any change from the first game of the season to where we are now. And I put that probably down to the fact that he's not getting what he needs out the lads, and he doesn't trust the group. If that's the case, then come out and say it. Do you know what I mean? Explain it to us, because as fans, I think over the next 2 games, they're going to turn their frustration towards him and his tactics and his style of footy to oppose to the lads they're playing who are on the pitch. Because at the minute, I can't see us, you know, scoring many goals in the games unless he puts 2 up front or he changes the quality of crosses into the box. But again, I think he had the opportunity there to get in Arsenal's face from the first minute, and you could see it kicked off. They kept the ball for about 2 or 3 minutes after it. I mean, you knew straight away, we're not going to press these high up here.
Just going to sit back.
We're going to sit back. We're going to get pulled out. We're going to get exposed. You know, they're going to get us in the wide areas, kill us. And they did to some extent. I'm just surprised they didn't score more than what they did. On the day.
I guess that's some consolation. So again, focusing on the Brentford game, you said, you know, you wouldn't mind, or you'd quite like to see 2 up front. What you'd expect to see?
I think it's the same shape, same team.
Same team, exactly.
Michalenko
still left back.
I think he'll still
right
start
back.
with Michalenko, yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, and this is divided opinion slightly. I thought Michalenko's done a really good job. And considering what he was brought in to do, considering the manager explicitly come out before the game and says, I'm playing him because he plays well against Saka. I thought Saka gave him a bit of the runaround at times, but I think generally he stuck to his task. He made some brilliant blocks. I think we know, most Evertonians who go to most games know what Michalenko is now. He's a good defender, and that's it. Not more than that. I thought at Doncaster he was a breath of fresh air because he came on and just showed a bit of positivity. But I think, you know, given he was playing against the League 2 team, that was probably, you know, he was slightly above that level. So you think?
I think
would you stick against? Slightly flipping the question, who would you play in the fullback
personally, if he goes with the 5 across the middle, I put James Garner back in as the old midfielder. He's the only creative midfielder for me on the ball. I think Garner Gay probably a little bit higher with Takore or Onana. I think Onana for me looks a little bit disillusioned, blew out. You know, call it what you want. But I think between that midfield 5...
So would you see that 5 you say there, so you've mentioned Garner Guy, Takore, Onana, do they all play for you?
No. I think for me, Onana, it'd probably be the one I'd drop. I'd have Garner Gay and Takore pressing, and then I'd have Danjuma and McNeil on the wings to get some deliveries in. That's if it's a 5. If it was going to a 4... then I'd probably give Garner Gay and Onana a rest and put Takore in as the chasing midfielder and Garner as the ball player and go 2 up front. Because Takore supports well, you know, when we're on attack, and he breaks up well. But give him the ball in possession, he's like a fish out of water.
He's just dreadful in possession, isn't he?
And I think he'd be open and honest to admit
he's all right
himself.
picking up bits, isn't he? And I think that's where he thrived last season, you know, in the games against Brighton and you know, the last game against Bournemouth, if you just say to him, look, go and get close to the striker, go and pick the bits up, you know, second balls, if it comes, just let the ball go. Or drive forward. I enjoy seeing him driving forward. And think he can be
breaks
effective
play
like
up
that.
well, you know, but can give it to the people who can play, you know. And I think we'd probably look a little bit more organised in that way. And then hopefully, you know, with the back four, they start to be able to play the ball into someone who's going to turn on the ball, because the amount of times we play the way we're facing, even there's no one round us.
That's why James Garner needs to be in there for me.
Yeah,
and
100%.
I think if it wasn't for the poor performance at Doncaster, because I thought he was the victim of the fact that Doncaster really pressed us in the middle of the pitch and he overloaded us, and he was literally 1 versus 2, and you could see what their coach had said. As soon as he'd seen his name on the team sheet and knew he was in there, he knew he was the only ball playing midfielder. It was like, look, double up on him and they won't play through midfield, and we didn't. And I think Dyche's almost thought, I'm not doing that again now, which is disappointing. But I agree with you. I think he needs to be in that midfield if we're going to have any chance of playing through the thirds.
He seems to be the only option for me at the minute. Who, if we want to get it down and play, we'll play through him. But he seems to be the easy touch or the easy person to drop for me.
Because he's not as physical as the other three.
Yeah. And I think if you're looking at Dyche's traits as a manager, then, you know, he does look the physicality. He oversees the physicality than the quality on the ball. Which probably why we're not seeing much of Gomez at the minute either in the squad, whatever his situation is. But, you know, for me, James Garner is probably the best ball playing midfielder we've got. For me, he's got to be in there, because that's where one of the areas we're really struggling in. And if he's got 5 across the middle, I'd put a flip up between the other 3, Takore, Garner, Gay, and Onana. But I think it's time to see 2 up front. What have we got to lose? You know, we're already at rock bottom to a certain extent, you know, and if it's anything, you know, it's going to offer us more of an attacking, you know, approach. We're probably subject to a bit more counter-attacking footy, but, you know, until we try it, let's see it. We want to see crosses in the box and chances. I think in the game on Sunday, I mean, I struggled to count on many occasions that we got the ball in the box and had a shot on goal that was on target. Yeah. Which is what we pay for.
Exactly, yeah. Unfortunately, I think given what we've seen so far in terms of the changes or lack of changes that Dyche tends to make, I just can't see it. Like, I agree with you. I just can't see it. You see how long it took him to drop Michael Keane? It's almost like it needs to get to oblivion. Yeah. And it's that glaringly obvious. Even, you know, even a monkey would make that change. But I really do... I really don't think that's incoming, that change.
I just see
similarities. I think it'll be more of a reactive one.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, if we go behind at the weekends, which, you know, is likely given the form of both teams, then he'll make that change, and then it becomes you chasing the game, and then you are more likely to. But if you set up and go, right, this is our game plan, we're playing 4-4-2, we're playing a diamond maybe, or as you say, we're playing 2 wide players, we're going to tuck our fullbacks in. I think something will give. I think that's my only expectation. If we do play 2 up front, he'll either tuck the midfielders into a diamond and says to the fullbacks, you're going to be getting the crosses in. That's what he's done at Burnley. Or he tucks the fullbacks in and says to the wide players, you're going to be doing the crossing. He's not going to be doing both, is he? Or it's old school and it's like we're attacking on the right, the left tucks in.
Yeah. I think for me, you know, his big opportunity the weekend is for me to go 2 up front. And I think he'll change the attitudes of all the fans to say, look, you know, he's got more belief in the group and he sees what we maybe see, you know, from a sideline point of view, and we'll accept it. And it'll, my opinion, then it'll buy him a bit more time, you know. But if he doesn't and he reverts to what he thinks, the 5 across the middle, expect the same outcome.
Do you know what? I agree with there as well. But do you know the other thing? And I think football, in my opinion, is a simple game, and we sometimes overcomplicate it. Other people overcomplicate it. I always think if you're a manager in any setup, whether it's, you know, grassroots or, you know, kids footy or whatever it is, build the team around your best players. And whether we like it or not, the 2 forward players are our best players in terms of the ones who, you know, if you know, God forbid, and we'll come on to the off the field stuff in a minute, there was a big clear out. Aside from Jordan Pickford, they're the 2 players you probably think they'll get, you know, obviously Beto's just come through the door, so it might be less likely. But if it was a fire sale, those are the 2 players that I think other teams would pick up and go, we can use them. Play your best players. Yeah. Those 2 forwards could get 15 goals in most Premier League teams easily. Get them in the team and let's build the team around that.
you're talking about grassroots. Is that what you do at grassroots? That's what I do with my kids' team. You've got to build a system around your kids. To me, it looks like it's the other way around at the minute with Dyche. He's got a system that doesn't suit the players. And I think that's what he's stuck with. Whether that's down to recruitments and stuff, players he's getting in, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see Jack Harrison and see what he brings to the team when he comes in, but it's going to take time for him to get up to, speed with the game, the Dele Alli situation, if that offers us something slightly different, do you know what I mean? But
was he on the bench, Jack Harrison? He wasn't, was he?
No, but there was talk of him being on the bench, wasn't he, on Sunday, but I mean...
No, I didn't think he was, because I didn't see him get off the bench if he did. Yeah,
but he's another one. I think he'll add quality to set pieces, deliveries and stuff like that, more attacking minded. So I think with it, the likes of him in your mind and the Ganato situation and that, he wants wingers who want to attack, but I just don't think he's got the right players. So don't play that system.
Yeah,
because otherwise you're not going to get the outcome you want. Fit the system around the players you've got. You've probably got more of an opportunity to see the best out of them. And for me, that going back to it, it's two up front.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, if that's, again, given all of the permutations, and again, I don't know whether you're going to side with what you'd expect or you like, but give us a prediction.
I'm open for a 1-1 draw.
That's what it's come to, isn't it? I'm hoping for a 1-1 draw. I tend to agree with you. I'm going to go with 2-2 again. We seem to have had a lot of 2-2s under... I seem to remember a lot of 2-2s over the last 6 months. Not just under... Well, yeah, we got one at Forest, didn't we? We had one the other week. I think the fans would take that. I think we'd take a draw. We'd snap your hands off for a draw, in fact. But I think more than anything else, I think to see us score another couple of goals would be good. And hopefully to see a bit of a shift in the mentality in terms of the way we're playing. But I'm going to go with 2-2, and I think that's more out of hope than expectation as well. Unfortunately, we're now move on to matters that are a little bit more negative than what we've just discussed. I say a little bit more, potentially a lot more, and it's off the field. There's been a lot in the media, and Tuesday I'm just getting my phone to remind me of some of the stories that have come out. So I'm just going to read a few points here. And this is, by the way, this is not mainstream media reporting this. I also need to stress that Everton have not really come out and made a statement against this. I'll add a few theories at the end of this, but this is what has come out, and this has been published by a few Twitter accounts, and has not been denied by anyone. So, having considered quietly... I'll go through the points. Everton's expenditure on salaries, interest and existing loans is more than the income from television match day and the additional cost of the stadium. So, in short, at the moment, we're in a position where we've got a huge hole from a cash flow point of view. We're spending more than what we're bringing in, and there's not an injection of cash. So, in order to balance the books, we need an extra £1 million cash every day for the rest of the current season. I mean, I haven't done the math on how many days that is, but given, and the reason for that is there's approximately £540,000 worth of loan repayments and interest combined that comes out, and approximately £400,000 worth of surplus wages and salaries that come out of the club combined. Now, look, you don't have to be an expert to know that the only way to raise that cash is obviously selling the assets. Players are the only real assets, and that'll obviously significantly weaken the squad. We can't do that also until January, which is a huge factor. Borrowing money, there'll be huge rates of interest, which are obviously applied to that. And the owner putting in more money. Now, it's, Mashiri's disappeared now, as far as I can see. His last statement was saying, look, I've agreed to deal with 777. That's subject to ramification. Subject to the Premier League approving it. The rumour is now that 777 have put in £20 million, which, if you believe the facts there, that's only going to last us 2 or 3 weeks. Again, the rumour is that one of their directors, if you like, or one of their shareholders was at Finch Farm, has met Kevin Fell, has met the manager. What do you make of this? I mean, you've got some of your own points noted down. Just first of all, do you believe that is the extent of the situation at the moment?
In my honest opinion, I don't know, because there's that many stories flying around. There's that many, news outlets or reporters, making judgments on it. I mean, you're listening to it on the radio, it's a topic of conversation, it's, it's on Sky Sports, it's, just general chit-chat between people who, I know someone and they've said this, that and the other. I think I listened to something what Alan Myers discussed the other day about, business model and a better business model with 777. And, Farhad Mashiri, I think if we really got down to the nuts and bolts of everything that's gone on in the club, I think we'd probably be shocked.
There was no business model, was there?
Exactly. So to put a burning hole in the budget or the outgoings at this point for on how to run a football club, that's quite shocking. To go in and invest in that in a club like that, and then and make the mistakes that he's made year on year on. Again, I probably wouldn't say that it's right to point the finger just at him, because he's put a lot of his own money in. The people who've come and gone.
That's that's another one now that's being put to question, isn't it? Whether the money was his or whether it was loans against the club, and the debt. Obviously, the biggest debt the club has got is to Farhad Mashiri. And how that's going to be repaid, but I guess that's another question for another day.
And there's other pieces around. Everton have spent on forecasted generated income and stuff like that, and TV deals and my economics are not,
We've now got charges against all of our assets, which again, to the common person, it is, the equivalent of basically lending against the full value of your house, knowing that one repayment means you lose everything. Yeah. Essentially, not one repayment, but, a position certainly where the club goes into administration or borders on that, we then lose all of our assets.
Do you know what I mean? Gary, if you strip it right back to when he come in like 2018 and took over the club, I know we spent a lot of money on recruitments and recruiting players who've either moved on or there's not many who are still here. But we sold a lot of players as well. So, under Lukaku, John Stones, when that cohort of players left, there was a lot of money generated. So when you're looking at that and the Anthony Gordon money and others recently, Richarlison, you're thinking, well, I'd love to see the outcome way and the income.
I know it's the net over the last few years has balanced itself out. I mean, again, believing all of that in terms of interest on loans, that's swallowing it all up now. And again, you don't need to be an economist to know that if you have several credit cards or several loan accounts and there's interest on all of them, it doesn't matter how much money you're earning or how much that comes in. It just gets absorbed by them. And just briefly, because again, admittedly, as you said and as I've said, we're not economists. Just flipping it to the actual 777 scenario. Now, when these guys first got floated, it was scaremongering City, wasn't it? Everyone's going round. No one likes them. They're this, that, and the other. They've been compared to a payday loan, a payday lender, if you like. Now, from my point of view and what I've read, and I'll give you an opportunity to give your or have your say on it. Listen, I don't think that they're pretending to be anything they're not. Their model, the clubs they currently own or have got part ownership in, they're all clubs that have been struggling and they've needed an injection of cash, and these have come along and went, okay, we'll give you some cash, but we want to try, we want to start getting our mitts on it, and we want to have some kind of influence on it. If you look at the clubs that they have got ownership or part ownership of, Genoa, fans seem to be pleased with them. They got relegated, I think, shortly after 7-7 came in, bounced straight back up, are in a decent position. Relatively in Serie A, they drew against the champions Napoli at the weekend. Vasco da Gama, again, not doing particularly well in the league at the moment, but again, not as many complaints as I think people would have you believe. Standard Liège, certainly don't like them as Standard Liège fans, but I think that's probably as a result of the fact that when they came in, they weren't on the backsides like the likes of us, and they haven't really invested much. What they're saying, 777, from what I can see and what the model seems to be, is we'll get you to a net point. We'll get you to zero. We'll put some infrastructure in place. Then it's up to you then as a management team, and it's up to the model to then start paying dividends and washing its face. Where do you sit on that? I
think, if I'm honest, it's a must listen, not judge situation at the minute. Look, they're all going to have their own, two pennies worth on how they feel as fans, with those clubs. Look, you're right, they've been open and honest. We want to come in and we want Evertonians to buy insurance off, a certain company, and we want you to buy hot dogs and all the rest of it. But what club isn't like that?
Yeah.
You can't tell me there's a club in the Premier League that doesn't have these types of loyalty schemes and stuff like that in place. So are they any different? I'd probably say no. Yeah, I think the must listen before you judge thing for me is, they obviously understand the industry. That's one good thing, opposed to what the current owner is. And can they get us in any worse a position than we're in now? Well, hopefully not.
Probably not, yeah.
Probably not.
When you've got the suggestion that we're on the brink of administration, doesn't get worse than that financially. And again, I think that's where I would be willing to accept the claims that they are like a payday loan lender coming in and swooping in. Fine, but needs must. Do you know what I mean? We're not in a position where we're the most attractive of assets, despite people going, we've got a new stadium there, but the stadium, we owe a lot of money on that stadium. It might look great at the moment and it might be, fantastic potential and whatever, but until it's open, and until you can start to...
Look, guys, if they come to us and said, look, we're gonna bring you back up to above the waterline, but we're gonna sell you as soon as we do that, I'd take that now in a heartbeat. And give someone else an opportunity for them to make money on top of that. It's no different from buying and selling an house after ripping it out and doing it up and all the rest of it. But it's a commercial model similar to City, isn't it? What they're in with the City Group and others. I think what we need to focus on now with this opportunity is looking at the quickest way out of the mess. Because what's happening behind the scenes, in my opinion, is affecting what's on the pitch. Most definitely. And
players aren't blind and deaf, are they?
No,
Do you know what I mean?
absolutely
They've all got social media. They're probably getting messages from their family and friends. WhatsApp messages. Do you get paid late last month?
Yeah. I do see similarities to where we are now to where Leeds were when it happened to them. And we're stuck with contracts for players who we just can't afford. So we're going to end up playing players who don't want to be at that level, who don't want to come off that contract because they're on good salaries. And look, at the end of the day, is it the players' fault? I don't think it is. It's we offer the club offer contracts to players. Why wouldn't they take them? But when it doesn't suit the club, it doesn't mean the player has to decide not to take what's in front of them. But for me, 777 offers something commercially that we haven't got at the minute, which is a plan. An ownership model that if we can use other clubs to learn from how they do things commercially and structurally and stuff like that, why not? It's better than what we've got now. We're running so lot at the minute, and from top to bottom, everyone you ask who's involved with the club or around the club, they just say it's a mess.
Yeah, exactly.
From scouts in the local park, you don't see them anymore. So whatever changes have been made there at that level, you can see the ripple down effect. It's affecting that. And obviously with being involved in that in previous years, that can have a detrimental effect on future recruitments. For local recruitment anyway. And I think that's where we need to get back to. Massive opportunity lost, I think, recently with especially with Dyson. With the fans. I mean, Frank Lampard for me is the only one who's come in the last couple of seasons.
Tried to breed some of the
and really wanted that connection with the fans. And no disrespect to the players, but it's the fans' atmosphere that kept them up. Against the...
I think it went a bit too far, didn't it? You know what I mean? In terms of
seeing the coaches in and all that. But I flip it the other way.
No, not seeing the coaches in. I don't mean that. I just think he was towing it a bit too much, and I think there was a little bit too much dirty laundry being aired by the manager and kind of being a bit critical about certain things, thinking that that's what the fans wanted to hear, and a bit of a lack of substance at times. But I think it's another conversation for another day.
Learn the good things from that. Look, he got the whole club, the whole fan base was behind him and the players at a time when we were awful. We were absolutely awful. But we seem to have, all the kids, I only know from this season, my kids, we having the buses back this year? No, mate, it's not happening.
Yeah,
and you're like,
who at
the club here is not seeing this and capturing it and stuff like that. But I think we're in for a bit of a rocky ride, I think, the next couple of months. Depends a lot on the Premier League and how they see it. I think, me personally, the Premier League in the future should have mechanisms of finance in place to stop this from happening with any other club. So for me, they're just as...
I mean, that's, in fairness, that's what financial fair play was brought in for, is not, making sure the clubs can't spend what they can't afford. And in fairness, again, I guess they probably weren't prepared for the way that we were going to go about it.
Yeah.
And I think they've admitted, saying, look, we've not been quick enough to respond. If they would have responded sooner, we'd have probably been docked a few points, but probably be in a better position. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or, just have someone there who's kind of there to oversee your books with you. So you don't fall below the waterline with your finances. But look, any club in the leagues on the verge of what we're on, a couple of poor results, go down. I mean, Man United.
A few poor decisions, yeah.
Yeah, you don't get into Europe, or Champions League, your budget drops, you know what I mean? We're all kind of having to adjust to that. But I just think, obviously, with ours, I think Mashiri mentions it the other week, it's like, this one owner approach, putting his own money into it, them days have gone. I think the more commercial, partnership pathway, with a set of investors and stuff like that, that's the way things are moving forward. Because as the game grows, so does the competition with Saudi and stuff like that now for TV deals. So is that money going to be the same next year? So we'll all have to kind of feel the brunt of that as fans paying for it. But for me, I think it's too early to judge. I think they need to be clear about what they want to do with our club. Me in the short, medium, and long term. And I think there's obviously questions around whether that's the right manager for them as well.
Well, I was gonna briefly take you back to the manager before we finish. I almost think Dyche being our manager and these potentially being our owners, it's almost like, listen, this is what you get when you get to this position. You've got to take owners that are maybe not the perfect owner. You've got to take a manager who's maybe not the perfect manager. He's not your cup of tea, but you've just got to get through that period. That's my feeling with Dyche at the moment, and we're gonna go into Dyche now. I think, unfortunately, it's like we've got to accept that that's what we have to have at the moment to get through this period. I think if we had our way and we had the resources to do it, I think he would be 2 games away potentially from being sacked, and I'll ask that of you in a moment. But I don't believe that can or will happen because, one, we can't afford to. Even if it is a couple of million quid, we probably can't afford to have that, again, another debt or another, expense to pay. And 2, I don't think we can afford, or I don't think we're in the position to attract the type of manager or coach that we're going to need to get ourselves out of it. Where do you stand on that?
I mean, on those points alone, it's like you're stuck with what you've got, aren't you? But I think, referring back to some of those conversations we had before, give the fans something to get behind then. If that's the situation we're in and this is the style of play we're going to have to get used to, at least give the fans, give us half a chance of telling us, keeping fans informed is one way of doing it, isn't it? But I just think with us, as the way we are as a fan base and as a club, I think we're so far away from the roots, of what we see as our football club. Identity-wise, you might be right. We mightn't be able to sack Sean Dyche, but I think what he's done is he's come in, stabilised it. He's got rid of a lot of, I wouldn't like to call them dead wood. Do you know what I mean? Because at some point they were good players. They're just not showing it now with us. But I think we're on the verge of getting someone like a Graham Potter, who can actually go, right, stabilised it from a defensive point of view. Now we need to open up and be a bit more creative and challenge you. You're professional footy players. You're at this level because you can adapt. You know what I mean? If another club comes in and buys you, you're going to play another system. You're going to play another way. I think Sean Dyche, for me, is kind of stuck in that sort of crossover now, where it's like, well, come on, how do we get out and express ourselves a little bit more? But previous games, I haven't seen it. I don't think he's got that plan B in him from a coaching point of view. I'm
just looking at, and again, just the cold light of day. Stats are obviously on the manager. He's broke a couple of records this season. Worst start to a season ever. Worst start at Goodison ever. We haven't scored in our first 3 home games again. First time ever. 4 wins in the last 16 home games. 25% win ratio overall. No more than 1 goal scored in any of the home games since he took charge. Those stats are just horrendous, aren't they? Yeah. And as you say, it speaks to why the fans are so depressed at what they're watching, at what they're seeing, because you get hit with that, and how are you supposed to take that with a the pinch of salt or a degree of positivity? The only shining light in there, is the fact we survived last year, and we got those 3 wins out of 4, which was the Arsenal, Leeds and Brentford games, and then obviously followed it up towards the end, or at the end, with the Bournemouth win. But it's grim reading that, isn't it?
And I'll be honest with you, you look at some of the players we've had and we've currently got now in the group, we've got creative players there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Who can create things, you know, in certain areas of the pitch, like crosses and stuff like that. But is he allowing them to express that? You know, and I guess these are the points where, as a manager, for me, in his position, he's probably got to be a bit more open. Me criticise, like, you know, Frank Lampard for doing stuff like that. I haven't got the players to play the way I want and stuff like that. I think Dyche is probably at that point now, and said, you know, to the point where he's got to set a bit of, you know, realism about it and say, look, you know, what we've got, we're limited. If we take a few injuries, playing more expansive, you know, way of footy or whatever, then, you know, we're in real trouble. So we're planning with what we've got in a certain way. I'm sure the fans would react slightly different, but to put it back to home games, you want them to come out and play, don't you? Or at least come out and put pressure. I don't see that. I don't think we've got, the way he sets them up and the way he restrains them to some extent, he doesn't allow them to express themselves.
It's when you see the opposition on the back foot, we just never seem to have that urge to go and, you know, wrap their hands around the throat and really try and strangle them. It's like we go, okay, well, let's sit back again, let's wait for our next chance. Football particularly is all about momentum, innit? And you'd have your moments in the game where you're on top, and everyone says, look, you got to score when you're on top. We just don't seem to seize that momentum often enough. I think I look at that last away game at Sheffield United, and we go 1-0 up, and you're thinking, go on, these are a newly promoted team. They haven't won yet. Let's go and take the game to them. Let's just go and put them to the sword. And it was like, no, let's drop in and let's just make out. And then suddenly you lose that momentum. They get a couple of goals, and you're chasing the game again.
Similarities with Moyes, honestly. Travelled everywhere watching them under Moyes. You were the 1-0 expert, weren't you? Sit in, score. If you score first,
when you don't get that,
when you don't, you're looking at like the way that he sets the team up, the way he restricts them. You know, he just doesn't like them to come out and express. He's not expansive, is he, in his style? And I think, you know, going back to the point of, like, you know, with him and Plan B, there is no Plan B. You know, it's frustrating. You know what I mean? It is. It's frustrating. The points we probably alluding to. He's probably, for me, just got to be a bit more honest with the fan base and say, you know, come out and say, look, you know, I listen to it, I see it myself, you know what I mean? We're working on it, you know what I mean? At least fans then are on board to a certain extent, but, you know, it's becoming a bit of a struggle to watch the same thing again.
Yeah, and you know, I agree with you there, and I also think, because you speak about David Moyes there, and Evertonians, certainly with hindsight, I've got a lot of respect more for David Moyes than they did maybe when he was there. And I think he was underappreciated, there's no doubt about that. But I think what Moyes was always quick to do was to set expectations and say, look, we're going to be a team that's hard to beat. That's the way we're going to play. But there was no doubt about it, and you always knew it, Moyes. Even if we were quiet or we had a bit of it, you always knew we would play to the final whistle. And the amount of late goals we got, because we were a fitter team, because he'd throw caution to the wind towards the end, you kind of thought, you know, I'll take that, because, again, I can't remember an era where, you know, we scored as many late goals as we just don't seem to have that little bit in the locker, do we? And that's the bit. And I think that the second thing I'd say, and I think this is the bit that'll probably frustrate him more than anything else, you don't even see the clean sheets coming, do you? We don't look like a team that can keep goals out.
Similarities for me is shape. Moyes played 5 across the middle, and he had Kale attacking. I think that's similar to what Decore's trying to do at the minute. He
had slightly less attacking wingers, I'd say that.
Absolutely.
Mark Penridge, you know, Steve Watson, Lee Carsley has a stint out there, Kevin Kilban. Yeah,
people who were blistering pace like Pienaar. But we had a plan that suited the players at the time. And I going back to the shape here with going over stuff with Dyche, I think it's screaming out for 4-4-2 me. 2 attacking players to play into for that more direct play. And if that's the case, then give it a go. You know, let's see what it looks like. If it isn't and we're getting battered 4-5-0 off it, then you're going to have to revert back to what we had.
You know what makes me wonder, right? So there's 2 big signings in the window in terms of, and all right, we didn't outlay the money, but in terms of figures, with Chimiti and Beto, we've already got Calvert-Lewin. Why are you buying 3 6'3", 6'4"? Or you're buying 2, sorry, but you've already got a third. If you're not going to ever going to play 2 of them together. And it's early doors. Listen, let's be a little bit fair to him. He's only really had that option from Saturday just gone, and it wasn't Arsenal at home. But you're right. I think the fans will start to point the finger and go, you asked for these players. You know, you said you want a big centre forward, you've got them in there, and you're only playing 1 out of the 3.
Yeah. Which is why I can only see him, if he wants to change the attitudes of the fans towards him and the team, he's got to go with 2 up front, Saturday. It's got to.
Well, let's see. Let's hope that is the case on Saturday. Listen, we always get to this stage of the week, and I am looking forward to the game. As you say, we're both hoping for a draw, but I think it's an opportunity, as you say, for Dyche to maybe get some of them fans back on board by playing two of the better players in the squad. Hopefully he goes with that route. In terms of the ownership, we'll obviously see how that pans out. If anything changes over the next week, we'll jump on straight away and talk through the ramifications of that. I think as Colin just said, I'd encourage you to follow people like Alan Myers. He definitely seems to be in the know at the moment. I think he's also lining himself up for another comms job at Everton by the way he's praising the prospective owners. But yeah, that's always his prerogative. But he's a good friend of the show, Alan. So yeah, give him a follow. He's generally tends to have his finger on the pulse. So yeah, that's it from us this week. Again, massive thanks to Pod Cafe for hosting us. Superb venue, really appreciate it. Thanks again, Colin, for coming on and deputising for Millsy. Hopefully this weekend brings us a little bit more joy. It can't get much worse than it is at the moment, unless we cease to exist, which might do us all a favour.
Well, we'll still be here, won't we? Yeah,
we'll still be here moaning about Tranmere instead, or Everton in the counties, in the northwest counties. But thanks again for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you soon.